He had a charming smile, eyes that seemed to promise safety. His gaze was confident, and the way he spoke felt so natural that people immediately trusted him. When he entered a room, it seemed as if he were just an ordinary, successful, attractive man, the kind you would easily like or respect. But behind this attractive exterior, there was someone completely different. Someone whose inner world was filled with darkness, cunning, and ruthlessness. People who interacted with him would never suspect his true nature. How could a person who appeared so ordinary and composed become one of the most notorious serial killers in the United States? What drives someone to hide their true face from the world while harming others? This is the story of Ted Bundy, a man whose life and crimes continue to shock the world and who reminds us that evil can sometimes hide.
Ted Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in the small, quiet town of Burlington, Vermont, a place where everyone knew everyone else, and life seemed simple on the surface. But his own life was far from simple. From the very beginning, Ted's early years were clouded with secrets, contradictions, and confusion that would shape his complex inner world. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, presented him as the son of her brother, and as a result, Ted grew up believing his grandparents were his parents. This unusual and confusing family dynamic created a deep sense of isolation and uncertainty about where he truly belonged. He often struggled to understand his own identity, which may have contributed to the hidden duality that would later define him. At school, Ted quickly stood out. He was exceptionally intelligent, charismatic, and socially adept. He formed friendships easily, excelled in academics, and participated actively in sports and community activities. Teachers and peers admired him. On the surface, he appeared to be the perfect student, the boy next door everyone trusted. But beneath this carefully constructed facade, subtle signs of a darker side were emerging. Even in his teenage years, traits like manipulation, a desire for control, and a tendency to conceal his true intentions began to appear. These early patterns, though barely visible at the time, would later play a pivotal role in his criminal life. His adolescence was a study in contrasts. On one hand, he achieved success in school, social settings, and extracurricular activities, winning accolades and building a reputation as a model student. On the other, he wrestled with deep feelings of alienation, a private world that no one could see. These contradictions, the outward charm, paired with inner emptiness, formed the psychological foundation of the man he would eventually become. A man who could present a trustworthy face to the world, while hiding something far more sinister beneath the surface.
By 1974, the first disappearances of young women in Washington state began to raise concern. It was during this period that Ted Bundy's criminal activity transitioned from private darkness to public horror. His approach was methodical, calculated, and frighteningly effective. Bundy relied on his natural charm, intelligence, and charisma to lure victims. He created scenarios designed to engender trust, pretending to be injured, feigning vulnerability, or appearing in need of assistance. Women who would normally have been cautious found themselves drawn into his carefully constructed traps. Despite these emerging crimes, Ted maintained the appearance of a normal life. He attended college, held jobs, and interacted socially with friends and colleagues. To the outside world, he was ordinary, even admirable. No one suspected that behind the friendly, approachable mask lay someone capable of calculated and lethal acts. His methods reflected a cold, meticulous mind. Each step was carefully planned to avoid detection. He observed his environment, considered the behavior of potential witnesses, and calculated risks with precision. This careful strategy allowed him to evade capture for years. The dichotomy between his outward appearance and his hidden life is one of the most disturbing aspects of Bundy's criminal activity. He could exist simultaneously as a model citizen and a calculated predator, seamlessly switching between identities depending on circumstance. This ability to compartmentalize and manipulate would become one of his most dangerous traits. To the world, Ted Bundy was the ideal student, volunteer, and colleague. His charm and social intelligence allowed him to interact effortlessly with people of all backgrounds. He was articulate, confident, and convincing, projecting the image of a man who could be trusted, admired, and even loved. This double life was central to Bundy's psychology. It was not merely a disguise, it was a performance, a persona carefully crafted to deceive. He understood the power of perception and how easily it could be manipulated. By presenting himself as the embodiment of normalcy, he concealed the dangerous reality of his inner self. Friends, family, and acquaintances saw a polite, ambitious young man, someone who seemed to have his life under control. Little did they know that beneath this exterior lurked a mind capable of extreme manipulation, cruelty, and calculation. His ability to maintain this duality for years illustrates how charm and outward appearance can be weaponized to hide true intentions. This dichotomy reinforces a stark and unsettling truth. Evil does not always announce itself with obvious signs. Often, it hides behind the mask of normality, disguised as the person you would least suspect. Ted Bundy's life serves as a chilling example of how appearances can deceive and how dangerous a charismatic person can be when morality is absent. Bundy was first arrested in 1975, but even then, his natural charisma and intelligence helped him navigate the legal system with unusual skill. He attempted to defend himself during his trials, demonstrating not only his confidence, but also his ability to manipulate perceptions in court. The media quickly took notice, and his trials became highly publicized events, drawing fascination and fear from the public. Some of the most infamous moments in Bundy's story were his prison escapes. On multiple occasions, he managed to flee confinement, using cunning, planning, and audacity to temporarily evade law enforcement. These escapes added to his legend. He was simultaneously a monster and a master manipulator, a man who could defy expectations even while imprisoned. Ultimately, Bundy was sentenced to death and executed in 1989. However, the impact of his crimes and his life story persisted long after his death. His life became a case study in the dangers of charm without conscience, a reminder that intelligence and likability do not necessarily equate to moral integrity. Society was left grappling with the uncomfortable truth that someone so seemingly normal could be capable of such horror. Ted Bundy is perhaps the most widely recognized example of a charismatic psychopath. Outwardly attractive, intelligent, and confident, he lacked the moral boundaries that most people take for granted. His story demonstrates that danger is not always obvious and that evil often hides behind a mask of trust and normality. The lessons of Bundy's life are manifold. They remind us to pay attention to our instincts, to question appearances, and to recognize that charm and likability are not reliable indicators of character. His life and crimes remain a cautionary tale about the duality of human nature and the capacity for deception. Ultimately, Ted Bundy's story is a stark reminder: evil can exist quietly among us, unnoticed until it is too late. And sometimes, the most ordinary seeming individuals may conceal the most extraordinary dangers.